Hey, leaders, you might call it flexibility, but 9 times out of 10, your team, they call it chaos. They call it unstructured. They call it uncomfortable. They call it, I'm looking for a new job. Because it's not something your leadership, your constant changing isn't something that they can count on. Now, I also believe in the idea that a good disruption in the workplace is good because it does open up creativity and it builds resilience and it shows us the more that we can do or the opportunities that present themselves out of that creative moment of disruption. I get it. I like it. I don't have a problem with it. But the consistent pattern of disruption and chaos, it actually has a bigger impact on your team, especially the hybrid team. No kidding. Your hybrid team, oh gosh, your flexibility is actually breeding chaos if you don't structure it well. And today I want to talk about the trap that leaders keep falling into with this hybrid fantasy that it's going to be all that in a bag of chips too. The belief that a few Zoom calls and team chats and Slack channels can thread connection, can build connection in your team and clarity and collaboration. And here's the spoiler alert. Studies show that it actually does not. Hybrid work has created a silent culture split, and one half in the room, one half in the cloud. Leaders are stuck trying to balance and lead a team with two very different realities, two very different viewpoints. And the bottom line is, it takes a special skill set to make that work. And while studies show that, yes, remote work maybe is producing more productivity, but does that also go back to how are we connecting and collaborating with inside the four walls, let alone outside of the four walls? So I think we're going to see a lot of this in the future that's going to show the disruption on both sides. And it bottom line comes down to leaders not leading effectively and with impact. When your people don't share the same space, they start building different stories. And those stories create the chaos that you keep cleaning up. So here's the things that you don't see as leaders in a hybrid workspace. Hybrid teams don't fail because of location. They fail because of disconnection. Leaders often confuse that visibility with productivity. They're measuring screens instead of engagement. And they're measuring screens instead of the actual, are we hitting our targets on time and exceeding expectation? And the office crews, those that are in the office, because I've seen teams where we're allowing some positions to actually work remotely 3 days a week, but then there's other positions that have to be in the office 5 days a week. And that starts building resentment between the remote, from the remote to those that get to, be in the office and they've got better access to the leaders. So they're getting more opportunity for promotion. And those whispered comments of, the people that work outside of the office, they don't really work as hard. Or my favorite is the people that are working remotely think they're spending more time, watching their TV or out with their kids, which isn't a bad thing. Love our kids. However, work is work and you're getting paid to do a job. And it doesn't mean taking the kids with you everywhere. I have a whole nother storyline on that for another time. But remote employees often feel invisible because there are those coffee conversations that happen, those impromptu meetings that happen that they don't get to be a part of. So then they build resentment on that as well. And what's funny is when I go into teams and I've got people that are advocating, I just want to work 3 days from home. I should be able to do that. And then they're expecting the leaders, but you ought to have the 2 days that I'm here, you ought to have all the meetings. But then not everybody's there the same 2 days. So we all don't get to actually collaborate and connect. And you're putting more stress and pressure on your managers and your leaders. And let's just stop it and bring everybody back into the workplace. I know I'm probably going to get some pushback and feedback on this, but the bottom line is that decisions get made in hallways, not on Zoom meetings. Decisions get made over the impromptu conversations. When we got something we got to solve now, we're not going to wait till everybody's on a Zoom call. And so yes, working remotely, you do miss out on that within the office. Gallup's latest hybrid work study shows that 38% of hybrid employees feel disconnected from purpose. 38% feel disconnected from purpose. Disconnected teams create double the work, missed deadlines, and a culture of quiet quitting disguised as flexibility. Flexibility ought to be removed from our dialogue for now because it's not the Wi-Fi that's unstable in their work environment. It's your leadership connection to them. And I just want that to sink in for a minute. You got a remote working team or a hybrid team. What's your leadership connection to them? It's really important because they're getting it from somewhere, but is it from you? And here's the trap. that oftentimes I see leaders walk into, that you over accommodate for the hybrid workers. You say yes to every schedule to keep the peace. You under communicate, which is often an issue in person, let alone hybrid. You assume everyone heard the same thing and they didn't, because what I saw on my screen and what I might have been distracted by that was happening on the screen, I didn't actually hear what the leader was saying. Seen that happen a lot too. And you can go back and it's like the telephone game you used to play as a kid. What ends up at the end is not at all what you said or meant to say. And leader, you probably are mismanaging accountability with your hybrid team. You trust people to deliver without clarifying outcomes. That's on all sides. And then before you know it, you've got performance conversation issues, right? And they sound like this. I thought you meant, well, I assumed. Well, nobody likes someone who assumes a lot. And nobody told me that that was due. I didn't know because I wasn't here for the conversation. I'm going to say this to the hybrid team worker. It's your responsibility to follow up and check in to see if there are any things that you missed. There ought to be an end of the day cleanup. Any things that happened today that I want to know about going into tomorrow, anything that I missed since I'm not in the office. That takes 37 seconds to send that email or to send that Slack channel or to send that Teams chat, whatever it is, to get the clarification, pick up the phone, better yet, and have a conversation. I am personally of the opinion, and I've seen it happen in too many teams where we believe that our Slack channels and our team chats are actually creating more efficiency, but they're not. It's actually bogging people down to feel more overwhelmed because we're not actually taking the time to have the dialogue. We're just pinging each other back and forth and expecting people to be immediately accessible. And the reality is that's not the case. And then when we're not able to get everything done that we need to get done in a day and perform at the expectation that we have, we can go back and do a time audit and see where people were getting pinged constantly and their brain was constantly hijacked. So they never got to any deep work, deep think, or creative clear space in their brain because it was constantly pinging. Tammy's rant, that's just me. So when you lead from assumption instead of alignment, chaos becomes the culture. So drop the assumptions, get to calm, get to clarity. How do you lead a hybrid team without losing your mind as a manager? Here's how leaders are doing it. They're reestablishing shared rhythm, not just scheduling meetings, but setting rituals, even rituals within the meetings. And you've heard it here in the Sandbox before. I offer that everybody start out with a 30-second praise celebration, go around the table, personal or professional, what's something you're celebrating. It reframes our thinking in that moment and it brings people together remotely and in person, but it's got to be set up as a ritual. It's something that we don't miss. Monday momentum check-ins or Tuesday momentum check-ins, Wednesday wins, Friday feedback, have the end of the day. Everybody's in the thread. Fine. You want to use Slack or Teams chat for that? In the thread, here's our daily check-in at the end of the day. Here's what was missed. Here's what you need to know. And it's got to be quick, bottom line it, not some big flippin' storyline. I want a bottom line single sentence. If you have a bulleted list, make it single word bulleted list. Or it's, hey, John, give me a call tomorrow morning. I've got 9 and 9:30 available. Let's connect because there were some things I wanted to bring you up that happened today in the office. That's respectful as a leader and as a team member. I'll say it this way. If you're in a hybrid team, it's not all your leader's responsibility. It's also your responsibility because we know that people crave predictability more than they do flexibility. And that predictability is what can I count on my team members for? I want to know that my team members have my back. How are we going to do that? Well, that's when you create that conversation. For the leaders, you want to define outcomes, not hours. If your hybrid team is still measuring success by online time, you're running a daycare, not a business. You're running a daycare, not an organization. My husband has that opportunity with the extra phone that he gets to carry around. It has Teams on it, just to make sure that he's available when he's out and about, off, let alone on, and he's not in the office. And it's people need to see that he's on Teams. Well, how are you supposed to do that when you're in other meetings and you're on your device? Again, I think our technology is working in some ways more against us because we're also not training people on how to use it effectively and with impact. So if you want to run a daycare, I would suggest getting out of corporate and go open a daycare because a lot of our communities actually need more daycares to be able to provide affordable childcare for young families. So go do that. Like, be a difference maker. If you want to babysit, get out of the office. That's not what we need you there for. Clarify what done well looks like. Clarify what complete looks like. And when it's not, go back to the situation, behavior, impact, expectation model, the SBI plus E model. It works beautifully in those situations. Yeah, it's the simplest way to get to clarification when something's not working. So simple, so easy. Rebuild connection intentionally. Hybrid means that you have to engineer trust on purpose. I'm going to say that again because the person in the back of the room needs to hear it today. Hybrid model means that you need to engineer, build trust on purpose with intention. I want you to also change up, right? Change up who's in the room versus remote. Pair up office remote partners and celebrate small wins out loud in the chat. All of those things are very important. It's intentionality that builds the connection. That's what I want you to focus on. Number 4, I'm going to just push against letting convenience replace courage. What does that mean, Tam? Because those bold conversations, those unapologetic, bold conversations still need to happen. And I'm using need intentionally. You want them to happen. Camera on, eyes forward, all paying attention. And then what did you hear me say? And what do you hear that my expectation is? What are we going to do different the next time? You want to ask what's working for you. How are we doing with a hybrid model for you? What's not working? And for those people that like to come back and say, well, I just want more days at home. I'm more productive at home. Really great. Let's do a desk audit. And you're going to give them a little way to do a desk audit. And you're going to tie it to the expectations of the outcomes that they're to complete. And you want to update on their projects and their timelines and the KPIs for that. You got to be really clear with that. And the biggest thing is when you start asking those questions and people are giving you their feedback, I want you to shut up and listen. I said it. I don't even let my kids say that. All right, I'm back. I want you to sit there and be quiet and listen. Zip your lips. And then you wait for the best question to ask as a follow-up. That's it. Because when you're asking those bold questions and having the courage to do that with the people that are working hybrid as well as in the office, so you're getting the pulse, you're staying on top of it. Now, here's the reality for managers that are managing both hybrid, and in the office workers, that hybrid model or remote versus in the office, it actually is requiring more attention and more time of you to manage that. So I want you to be aware. All right, here's my last and final closing it out. The hybrid team trap isn't about where people work. It's about how you lead them through the work that matters. We get so stuck on the where people are working and how long and what they're doing that we're not leading through it. And if you don't define the rules of your sandbox in the hybrid model or in the workplace period, that chaos that you're initiating, that disruption that you're allowing will. And you got to ask yourself if that's what you want. So the job for you this week, leader, is this. Audit your team's rhythms, see how they're doing, clarify the expectations in one single conversation with everybody at the same time, have them email you back what they heard you say and what you can count on them for moving forward. And then I want you to create a connection moment that doesn't involve another meeting. How do you do that? How do you do that? What's that look like? I mean, I've seen some really creative things. I've actually done remote drinking things. I love doing them at speakeasies too. Bring leaders together for that. But bring your soda, bring your water, bring your coffee, whatever it is, bring your favorite drink. Of course, it's during work, so non-alcoholic, friends. And let's sit down and talk. Let's create some momentum of team together. Because there is a way to get to harmony in a hybrid team, but it's about leading on purpose for you. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, because I believe that hybrid trust must be built and we're not focusing enough attention on it. We're making too many assumptions around it. There are too many leaders out there that are believing that I gave them what they wanted by having a hybrid model and I'm going to get more performance out of them, but they haven't actually gotten better as leaders of setting those expectations. So no, your hybrid model isn't going to work in that because you haven't changed you yet. Which really in the sandbox is what it all comes down to at the beginning and end of the day. Leader, lead yourself well first before you try to lead others. Get your expectations clear. Get to the purpose of your why and your values and share that openly and consistently again and again, and get that from your teams, whether they're in the office or whether they're working across the country or in another country. Be intentional about how you build your hybrid team, and it will work. But first, you got to get the clarity of what working and winning looks like in a hybrid team model. So I'm Tammy J. Bond, and I'm excited that you joined me in the Sandbox today. Thank you so much. Love that you are liking and sharing the podcast every week here at the Leadership Sandbox. And I know that leadership isn't something you're born with. It's something that you grow into. And I want to acknowledge and celebrate you for taking time today to grow into your next level of leadership. Thanks again for joining me. Make it a great day. We'll see you next week. God bless you.